Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Politics on the Rocks. I'm your favorite asshole, Nick LaRosa. And across from me, beautiful-ass smile, we got the motorboating, the fly fishing, the poon slaying, and redfish slaying, Cameron Hunnicky. What's up? And to my caddy corner, to my right hand, my northeast direction, we got Bookie.
Good night.
The awkward kid who sits in the corner and touches himself. Anyway, and we have the Biden-hating, the 60 and 58th resident, Chris, the
What's
homeless
up?
guy.
How's it going?
All right, well, welcome, everybody. How was everyone's week, man? Everyone have a good week? Good
That
weekend?
was a worthy introduction.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're perfecting our craft, you know?
That's it.
My week was good. I just want to tell everybody, June 9, since we're part of North Korea now, if you haven't heard.
What?
You didn't hear Jimmy Kimmel's bit?
I don't listen to that dickhead.
Neither do I,
I don't give a
but he
fuck
called
about him.
Florida the North Korea of the United States, so
Nice.
How? Because we're the most free?
I don't know, but
That's got to be
June
the
9.
It's
everybody.
counterintuitive to me, but
Yeah, exactly.
anyway. Intro song, He's Fine by the Secret Sisters, and that was Cameron's request for the evening.
Good song. Good
Yeah,
song.
we got some things on the schedule. We're gonna be talking about Daddy D, Ronnie Dizzle, Ron Desantis. He's asking the government for permission, like a good little American he is, for permission to start importing Canadian prescription drugs to help Florida residents get some cheaper prescriptions.
Canadian drugs are so much better.
So much better, dude. You ever had some Canadian blow or
they're so polite.
Yeah.
Canadian black tar
What do you have to
heroin?
say,
I
man?
feel like someone has to make a joke about there being like maple syrup in it or something.
Oh, you're the
Mary
Canuck,
Poppins.
man. Get after it.
Oh, the Canadian bacon is better. Right?
Yeah.
Was Mary Poppins Canadian? And that was just maple syrup she was giving those kids?
I have no idea what
Okay.
you're talking about, to be
Mary
honest
Poppins
with
was
you.
a Nazi, wasn't she?
Probably. But no, a little bit of sugar helps medicine go down.
Oh, that's your reference. Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
All right.
Maybe she was
Showing-
like,
showing
drugging
my
all them
age.
Kids. Who knows? And then we're also going to be talking about the what's the fucking other topic?
The transgender
Yeah.
sports
Yes,
bill.
yes. The what is it? The Protecting Women's Sports Act
Yeah.
or bill, whatever,
Yep.
however you want to call it. Well, as tradition,
Oh,
Bookie.
That's tradition.
me,
as,
huh?
Yeah, as tradition carries us forward.
Hey, we didn't give this guy props.
Yeah, let's
Oh, yeah,
shout out what
yeah,
we're
yeah.
drinking
Give him
tonight.
a shout out.
Yeah, go ahead. What are we drinking, Cam?
How would you say that?
Cam has a hard time reading.
Is it Mikers or Mitchers?
I think it's Mitchers.
I think it's Mitchers. Mitchers Kentucky Straight Bourbon.
Yeah, it's tasty. It's got some heat on the finish. It's kind of nice.
Smooth,
Is
though.
this a US one on it?
Let me see.
I don't know if it's US 1 or like US we are 1.
Yeah, I think it's just.
Oh.
I don't
U.S.
think it has
number
anything to-
one.
Anyways, what are our thoughts on this guy?
I like it so far. It's
Yeah.
got a really smooth head, if that's the proper terminology, and a very.
Probably
It's got a little heat on the finish.
Yeah, it's good.
But it's real smooth at the
Yeah,
end.
it's very nice.
It
It's
kind of
good.
ends abruptly, but it's nice.
Yeah, it goes good with this sun-grown Maduro Rocky Patel. This is a delicious cigar.
You know, just like anybody, after we've done it like a couple times, now we're experts.
Yeah.
So I figured, why not?
Oh yeah. Like all the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency experts. All of
I
a sudden.
did get some clarification on what a bourbon actually is.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
One second, I'm trying to pull it up here. I thought I had it. But
Yeah.
oh, here it is.
Okay.
All right, so basically the only rules are, it's a little more complicated than I thought, but so it has to be produced in the U.S., so it doesn't matter if it's from Kentucky or not. It's got to be a minimum of 51% corn, so it's mostly
For
corn.
whiskey, right?
For bourbon.
Oh, for bourbon. Okay.
Yeah, and then you can mix other stuff such as rye, wheat, and malted barley, but it has to be at least 51% corn. And then there's rules about like what proof it needs to be when it's distilled. So it's got to be no higher than 160 proof when it's distilled, and it's got to be aged in brand new charred oak barrels. And at that point, it has to be no more than 120 proof. and then when you bottle it, it has to be a minimum of 80 proof. So there's a whole throughout the process, it has to meet.
So what you're saying is we're getting gypped like a lot of proof.
A ton of proof. They halved the proof.
Yeah, that's some bullshit.
Man.
Yeah, it's actually clear when it's distilled. It's the charred oak barrels that gives it its dark color. A lot of people don't know that. And if you don't know that, you're an idiot.
And now you know, so you're not an idiot anymore.
You're not an idiot.
That's it. Hey, heads up. Manatees are native. Okay.
They are.
They
They are,
Florida?
but
They're not
the
Indian.
name of the manatee is the Indian manatee.
Ah.
So that's a little misleading.
The
Just
Indian
saying.
manatee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the Indian River?
No, like
Okay.
Like,
like from India.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
nice. Well, hey,
Well,
that's good
Yes,
information.
good
Following up our last episode.
But it doesn't mean
We shouldn't kill them. And we should definitely still kill them.
Yeah,
It
native.
would actually kind of be fitting, no?
Hey.
Oh.
Oh, too far?
All right, what's our first subject?
Anyway, yeah, go ahead, Book. Let's get into this.
Yeah, so first we're going to talk about the prescription
Yep.
bill. All right.
Yep, yep.
I think
So,
we'll probably spend the most time on that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is a good one. So it's CS or HB 19, so either in the Congress or Senate. It was signed in actually 2019. So in 2019, the bill was passed through the Senate of Florida and then signed by DeSantis. And it established 2 programs that could import possibly pharmaceuticals. The first one was through Canada, and the second one was just abroad, international.
Right.
And again, all this is contingent on federal approval. So this federal government has pretty much like 98% say on anything pharmaceutical related, especially when it comes to drugs. So anytime a state wants to do something, they either have to get approval if there's ability to, which through this law, there's like a little loophole that I can't remember if it was either put in place through the Trump administration or before that. But so no one's used it since it's been put in place. I think Florida was one of the first. Now a couple states are kind of right behind trying to get it through. And as far as I can tell, what's happening now, or what's been not approved but semi-approved by the federal government, is the Canada version of it. As far as I don't know, the international part of the bill has not been talked about since it's been put through.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're still waiting for full approval from the Biden administration for it to go through.
Okay.
So everything's set up. The most recent update was they had that facility in Central Florida that was built. I forget which company helped build it. Supposedly it's all FDA approved. It's going to store all the pharmaceuticals
Right.
that they will distribute.
Well, there we go.
And again, this is all for cheaper medicine and drugs for some Florida citizens.
Some. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah,
You know?
so in the bill, just to put this bluntly, this is a state-run pharmacy pretty much. So this will only relate to people who get drugs through state programs.
Right.
Oh, like Medicare.
Yeah, like Medicaid, through prisons, people who are orphans or through family programs, and a couple, like one other one, I can't remember. But Medicaid actually, if this goes through, currently, it'll take a little while for Medicaid to catch up to it for whatever reason. Not sure if that's a supply thing,
Right.
what it might be, but so this is only for people on state programs.
Right. So when I was looking into this, I don't know if you guys came across the same sort of stuff, but Canadians aren't really psyched about this idea.
Of course not.
Yeah, they don't really like this idea. They think that it's going to drive it's going to force them to be against their own price control system, right?
Understandably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like it is kind of an odd scenario because they're negotiating prices for what they're buying medicine for through their government-run healthcare system,
Right.
And then the U.S. is coming in and saying, "Oh yeah, we'll buy them for that price."
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is exactly what I was thinking. Like, so our system isn't working because of multiple reasons I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But so let's go to Canada where the government regulates the prices and get it from them. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
it's like bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I saw a lot of articles like you were saying that were just, people saying, basically it was people saying that this wasn't the answer to the U.S.'s drug problems.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, I
then-
agree with that.
And in one of the articles that I read, it was, they obtained Reuters obtained papers from the Canadian government that actually instructed their politicians to say that it wasn't the silver bullet that that the U.S. was looking for.
Yeah.
So I think you're seeing a lot of that just play out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I agree, though. I think our healthcare system's so broken. I mean, this isn't like some magical, some crazy, like idea that's going to revolutionize the way that we do healthcare here.
I mean, to
short-term
Daddy D's
solution.
point, not point, but to Daddy T's defense. Not that I want to give him any, but there's not much he can do, unfortunately, because
right,
federal
it's so heavily
is federal regulated, and they have preemption over most laws that have to do with drug prices or drug control.
Yeah.
So this is a very small loophole that, again, will only, if it goes through, help a very small amount of people for only certain drugs.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that the whole bureaucratic web that exists right now around pharmaceuticals, it just creates this environment where, talk to any doctor, there's literally shortages of saline every other month. We can't produce enough sterilized water and salt in a bag. There's some sort of underlying problem here, clearly.
Yeah.
When the most developed country in the world can't produce saltwater bags fast enough.
Well, I mean,
Right.
I think a lot of people found out when COVID first hit
How weak our system really is.
and that a lot of our prescription drugs aren't even, I don't want to say made here, but the factories aren't here.
Correct.
There's
Right.
there's over 134,000 foreign manufacturers.
We
outside the
imported,
States.
in 2018, we imported 18.2% of all prescription drugs across the world. That's a lot. That's more than double the next highest
Jeez.
importer of prescription drugs. That's nuts. We also paid the highest price, and we also put out the most tax money for it.
Not surprising.
To throw
Yeah,
some more numbers at you.
Numbers.
We-
Give us
we-
the numbers.
We don't want to be one of those podcasts that
Yeah,
just
but-
lists off a bunch of numbers.
But I think
here's the numbers.
I think it's important in these kind of topics, though, because
No, I agree. I agree.
Because-
Yeah, you kind of have to.
but the U.S. makes up a little bit less than 5% of the total world population. But in terms of demand for pharmaceutical drugs, we make up just over 50% of worldwide usage.
We
Yeah,
like our drugs.
yeah.
Oh, that's it, man. That's another thing. That's a whole other subject almost.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
yeah.
The opioid crisis.
Now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should mention too the reason, obviously, and that DeSantis wants to do this is obviously for cheaper drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, again, all this program's going to help is the state bought drugs that the state has to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I'm glad the state wants cheaper drugs. They don't take more tax money, I guess, or they can allocate that tax money to other things. But why are our drugs so expensive?
Yeah, that's a very, as I kind of got more involved in the, this type of objective, open-minded thinking and getting away from that two-party tribal kind of mindset.
Yeah.
That's a extremely reoccurring issue I've noticed since I've gotten into this is we have a tendency in this country to look at the symptoms and not the root of the problems that our country faces.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you have the government that steps in, that they try to mitigate, I air quote tries. They try to mitigate whatever social issue, whether it's a social issue or a health, whatever, all these social issues. And then it's those, government interferences that create more issues, and it's like a never ending
Yeah,
cycle.
So when I was doing research on this, that's exactly what I ran into.
Yeah.
Was okay, just for instance, we'll give the companies that develop the drug a 7-year exclusive right to sell the drug, whatever, right? So
Yeah.
they give them sort of a patent kind of idea, and then they went beyond that and they have loopholes around extending that, right? Because they want to make as much money as they can off of the drug, right?
Of course.
But then it's okay, now how do we stop them from doing that? So now they implement another bill. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
but
Layers.
you were the one that caused the first issue.
Yeah.
You know, it's like more government, more, you know, it's like more laws, more, you know, it's like, what are we doing?
Just stacking that pile higher.
Yeah.
And it just compounds the issue, you know,
Yeah.
tenfold every time they implement this, you know, whatever they end up implementing.
And one of the major, you know, problems that people bring up all the time in the pharmaceutical industry is like the borderline monopolies that exist in that industry. And, you know, it gets to a point where there's such a huge burden on producing these drugs that nobody can ever possibly enter this market.
Right.
Except for Pfizer and these companies that can afford these
J&J,
regulatory
Moderna.
burdens.
Right.
And a lot of that's, not to cut you off, but a lot of that is because of the government subsidies. How do you compete with somebody who's getting billions from the federal government?
Right.
Like you said, how do you enter that market?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you almost, I mean, you can't. It's impossible.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's that, and then obviously, you know, go back to like regulation bad. You know, the regulation over like drugs in general is just like reading into that was just ginormous. Mm-hmm. So like companies have to go through their typical, like, you know, if you're looking at it from like a scientific point of view, you know, you do your data like organizing, kind of figuring out, okay, will this work? Then you do preclinical trials, which is like do it on small organisms, you do it on animals, figure out if this is going to work in the way you want it to. Then you do clinical trials, which is like on small groups of humans to figure out if this is going to actually work, again, towards what you're looking for. And then once you get to that point, which I would agree that's what you should do, right?
Yeah.
Then that's when the FDA steps in, and then you have to start like building out these ginormous, you know, air quotes, binders of information, all this data that you've given. Then the FDA takes about who knows how long to go through that binder.
Yeah.
And then they have their own committees that once you've been approved to go through this other committee that then looks through it again and then sees, oh, okay, well, we don't like this, or, you know, this needs to be looked at. I mean, what the typical time frame is like 7 to 10 years from a drug from...
Which that's what I was going to say. When the vaccine was coming out, I remember that being what people were saying, that 7 years was like a typical minimum time frame for this type of stuff.
So
Yeah.
I found a few numbers on this, and what I found was actually from development to market, it's like actually 12 years. It's a 12-year process, right?
For vaccines or just in general?
Just drugs.
Pharmaceuticals. Okay.
Yeah, pharmaceuticals. And so this is what I found. I found this pretty interesting, but only one in... Hold on. Sorry. What?
Mike.
Oh, sorry. I was like, why are you touching me? Only 5 in 5,000 make it to human testing, and only one of them only one of them actually go to market, right? So, and this process takes about 12 years, right? The other thing that I found kind of interesting is the cost to bring a drug to the market is the median price. So, some
Average.
less, some more, right? An average price of $985 million.
Oh, my.
So you know,
That's crazy.
yeah. So I was thinking, you know, we want to, I think, naturally kind of attack the drug companies and say like they're in the wrong, and they do some sketchy stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'm not in any way defending them, but that's like a lot of money and
yeah.
a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just
Right.
wasted resources at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I saw similar numbers like that, and it's like, I think I saw maybe like a pharmaceutical group put out like it was like 2.6 billion from like idea to like pharmaceutical like shelves. And then I saw like FDA put out like maybe 1.3. Regardless, that is unfathomable amount of money
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a company to put out and to put into place for something that at the beginning may not even come to fruition.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
no
I mean, to be
guarantee.
clear, like when I say wasted resources, like, yeah, even in a totally free market, there would be pharmaceutical companies that would, you know, use resources to try and make a medicine that fails. But they wouldn't be paying multiple people $100,000 a year to fill out a binder of information that,
Yeah.
you know, may or may not, I don't know.
yeah, and what I mean, this is something I'm trying to remember too. Like one of the craziest things when I was reading up like how the FDA goes through it all. Again, there's so many like lists they check off, but at the end, so there's like this committee of like governmental experts that look through it all and they give their opinion, and then there's like FDA supervisor who has the final say. From what I read on the FDA website, at least that's how I read it. who can says yes or no if that drug goes through.
Right. So all that, and it still comes down to one person.
Yeah.
Well, in a sense, one person.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe 60, 50% of the time they align with whatever the group or committee says. But still, that is just a humongous waste of, again, resources.
Yeah.
For everything to hinder. And again, we know government, right? What if he was a
Super
lobbyist
efficient.
before, and now this company was someone he was against or for?
Yep.
And that
Right,
can
yeah.
sway something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, but we should just make healthcare for all, right?
Yeah.
I read something that, man, I wish I wrote it down so I could. I hate quoting people without knowing who said it, but basically, if we doubled all federal income tax and it was another tax, federal income and whatever it is, we still wouldn't be even scratching the surface of being able to give health care to everybody in the country.
I believe it.
Right.
Definitely based on the prices right now.
Yeah.
Right. Based on the prices.
Right. Well, a lot of people don't understand. Canada, a lot. Maybe you guys do know this, but they have price control. Like you were saying, Bucky. They negotiate the federal government, Canada's federal government negotiates the prices with the pharmaceutical companies, and there's price controlling. What a lot of people don't understand is they are able to have that because we don't.
Because we.
Oh, another
sponsor
thing
it
to
all.
note about the Canadian system is it's not. I don't believe there's. I don't know if there is a federal system or not, but the healthcare systems are run on a provincial basis, so it's like a state. So every state has their own healthcare system, but I think they all maybe operate under the Canadian
Right, the
rules or
federal
something.
guidelines or something.
But yeah, they all have their own.
Yeah,
system.
we're the highest. I guess innovators is the best way to put it.
No, for
They-
sure.
You know what I mean? They're piggybacking off of what we do, so it's
So we earn those cheap drugs,
right. We're basically picking up the slack for them them
Yeah.
having price control and not be talking about the pharmaceutical companies.
That's a
Them-
good point, right?
Yeah,
Because we're innovating it.
right.
They're
We're,
just
we're the
regulating the
leading
prices of it.
innovators in drugs. Whether you could argue that what the drugs we're making are good or bad. That's besides the point. We're still putting out more money than any other country for research and development and making drugs in general.
Yeah, and like Cam said, one view of this is you look at, depending if you're on the government side or big pharma side, which I would say we are neither.
Yeah.
But you look at one side, it's well, big pharma, has this monopoly because they have the exclusivity for drugs, and that means generic brand or generics can't come out, which is usually 60% of the brand drug,
Right.
and then the rest is kind of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And typically that works fine for most people, and they can't do that until the exclusive runs out. Again, like Cam said, that's because the FDA has put that into law, or someone has, that the companies can have that. But the companies also get a patent when they first start, I think, preclinical trials, or even before that. I think it's just a general patent, and I think that lasts about 20 years. So the companies lobbied for the exclusivity to go on, because by the time they went through the FDA approval, they only had 6 years left of their patent.
Right.
And to recoup that money would be almost how high would those prices be?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely a double-edged sword where it's not Big Pharma's fault completely, and it's not, I would say it's the government's fault completely,
It's
but
both, right?
yeah, it's a double.
And that's what I found is when I was looking into it, that you can't blame one or the other. You have to blame both of them, right? Because you have Big Pharma doing shady stuff where they're manipulating the system and
as our government's allowed.
yeah, that our government's allowed, right? And said, okay, and one of the things that I was looking into too was and I don't want to get too libertarian utopia talk where we're talking about if things were this way, this is how it would work. But even the idea of a patent is kind of a ridiculous idea.
I think patents are ridiculous.
Well, you should
ridiculous.
as a free market person think that they're ridiculous,
Right.
Because it interferes with the idea
Competition.
of property rights.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, why can't somebody with their own body, with their own human mind, come up with something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Use the same. So there's a lot to that. But yeah, it's both. They're intertwined. You know what I'm saying? They're very much intertwined.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that patents do, and now we're on to intellectual property talk, but
Right.
kind of running off track. But the main things that they do is they prevent someone that could possibly come along and say, oh yeah, and it's like maybe just the one little piece of their puzzle they needed to create whatever that was they were working on. And then, there's just a roadblock to that. They can't, continue with this innovation cycle that's
Right.
going on.
All right, it's just more roadblocks in the, path to entering any market.
Yeah. Now, to go back to our big daddy D that we have here in Florida.
Big D.
So, obviously, this hasn't been fully approved yet. Do we think it's coming from a good place from him? In the sense, do you think he's really trying to decrease prices for Floridians, even though it's...
I think it'll be good for Floridians, at least in the short term, until Canada runs out of drugs.
Yeah.
Because you know how many drugs Florida's going to be taking.
Shit, boy.
all our
Probably
old
be
people.
6 months.
Well, what, Canada only
be
has,
dry.
20 million people in the entire country?
Yeah.
How are they... I mean, not that we're going to be getting all of our drugs from Canada, but I don't see how... That if it were to kind of segue into a countrywide thing where we are open to the idea of importing Canadian drugs across the board, how is that supposed to keep up?
I don't understand the concept of I saw videos of Canadians saying, "Oh, we're gonna run out. We're gonna run out." Well, then stop selling it. You don't have to sell it, right?
Yeah, no, it was definitely part of
That seems
the
like
program.
a stupid thing to
A stupid
say.
argument, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna run out, then stop selling. That's just
it's like supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
If you can supply that much for the demand, create jobs, make it happen. I don't know.
It's going to reach a point where, I don't know, maybe Canada's going to shoot themselves in the foot because of their price control. But
Well, I was going to
if
say,
the price was allowed to go up, then it would go up with the shortage of supply.
Good point.
In proportion to it, and so then eventually it wouldn't be worth buying it from them anymore.
I was just going to say, you're going to see a lot of Canadians all of a sudden flip the script on, whether they're for or against social, the socialized healthcare kind of model.
Yeah. But I guess when I look at politicians in general, what I'm trying to get at is I don't know if this is coming from a true place where he's yeah, this is really going to help Florida, and I'm doing this for the betterment of Florida individuals, even though it's mainly for people on state programs. Or is this another thing that's good for the press? It's good on the headlines.
Yeah.
And when it comes to 2024, he's in a good place for vice
Double
president.
D, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anytime any politician does anything that seems remotely, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but good, I guess. I'm always immediately skeptical.
You're skeptical?
Yeah. I always think that there's something more nefarious to their whatever the hell they're doing.
Well, you have to understand that, they have an agenda for themselves.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I'm reading this book and I'm thinking about some of the stuff that goes on. What he explains, but it's just I think so easily we forget that they have a selfish agenda themselves.
Yeah.
They're thinking
humans.
about whether or not they're going to get elected again. You know what I'm saying? How do they look?
How is this going to make my...
They're not benevolent creatures. You know what I'm saying? They haven't they're not just out for your good. Although that's how it's portrayed. They have very much selfish intentions.
Well, yeah, I feel like a lot of people, and I don't know why they forget this, but I feel like a lot of people forget that politicians are just people. I mean, how often does someone ask you to help them with something? Yeah, they got fucking scales under their skin. But how often, does and maybe this is just me because I'm a little bit bitter, but how often do somebody ask you to help you with something, and what's your immediate first thought is oh fuck, how is this going to affect my day? You know what I mean? And that's human nature, right? So I don't know why people forget that translates. It doesn't matter if you're a politician or not. You're still thinking about yourself at the end of the day.
Dude, this is something that I've thought about a lot. Because
hunting manatees.
No, but just the idea like how like different ideologies look at like human nature. You know what I'm saying? And like they're politicians. Like do they look at like Bernie Sanders like he's sent from heaven? You know what I'm saying? And like he only is thinking about you. And like I mean, do people like people? I think people really have that idea.
Yeah.
And like all people are generally good and generally if in the right circumstances will do good things and whatever, and
Oh yeah, who was that famous philosopher that argued that? That was like a big argument.
Kanye West.
No, I think that has a lot to do with it, and I personally am, I think, well aware that people don't have good intentions, and like won't do the right thing necessarily. I think people are
Naive.
typically selfish and whatever, and that's okay. Like I'm not here to like change everybody, but I think
More people need to be aware of that when they're thinking about these politicians and the shit that they're doing. Yeah,
like they're not like benevolent creatures.
No,
they're not.
far from it.
Yeah,
Very far from it.
I mean, basically every creature. I mean, the way I see it, every creature on Earth is self-interested,
self-serving. Right.
Like your whole purpose is to survive. Like that's just every creature's purpose, pretty much.
and then imagine putting like the opportunity to make a lot of money in front of them.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. Like, they may be decent people, but then put them in a position where now they can go from like a $50,000 salary to like a $250,000 salary. Or they can change things, and now they have the power to do certain things.
Yeah.
Power corrupts people,
And money, money and power, man. We a couple of years back we had a death in the family, and it was a wealthy uncle, and it's like it's none of my immediate family. It was kind of family we didn't really know, but it's amazing how ugly people can get when money's involved, Mm-hmm. And that's not even, that we're not even talking the same level of money that we're talking about with politicians.
But it makes the point.
It does.
Yeah.
It makes the point tenfold, I think, because you have this little bit amount of money and, people get really, really nasty with it. But
And, I mean, that's why it's important that when it comes to medical, things that are, life-saving services, that they're not corrupted by politics and things of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to pharmaceuticals real fast, I think, COVID in itself has showed us one thing. It's once you take off the boundaries that FDA puts, you can do some pretty amazing things.
Yeah.
Like, we got a vaccine that, for all intents and purposes, is okay for what we can see.
Right, relatively speaking, seems to be working for the most. I mean, you could argue that, but it seems to be working for the most part.
And as time goes on, they'll improve it, and it got done within a year.
Yeah.
The fastest timeline for a vaccine before that was 4 years.
Yeah. And even that's, we were just saying, 10 years is the typical timeline
for a drug timeline,
just regular drugs.
So
not even vaccines.
So it's not like we have to go like, oh, how do we fix this problem? It's like, obviously states can't, unfortunately, like we've already said, it has to be done at a federal level. But we've seen what happens when the FDA kind of gets pushed aside to a limited role in this.
Yeah.
We get something done within a year. Mm-hmm. Granted, we can give some credit, not credit, but there was a lot of people working on vaccines. It was almost a whole world kind of thing. But still, in general, the vaccines that came out of the United States, which was 2/3?
J&J, Moderna.
Yeah.
What's the other one that was giving pregnant women
Pfizer
blood clots?
Is that Pfizer?
No, that was Johnson & Johnson. I think that was giving people blood clots.
Yeah, it's all right. It happens.
Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah,
hey, I just want to give a big shout out to Fauci, man. That guy.
Yeah.
I was wondering how long before you brought Fauci up.
We won't go into that.
Not right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's not like you have to bang our heads against the wall and be like, how do we fix it? It's give the FDA less power over these.
Them.
Yeah.
Take all their power.
And we might see decreased drug prices. And people might be like, oh, America uses so much drugs. You guys are always taking drugs. Yeah, we are. We have a pretty good life over here. Mm-hmm. And not everybody's just taking insulin. Some people have things, heart conditions that are born with. Some people have seizures.
Yeah.
Things that unfortunately they have, but they're born with and they need to take drugs for. And it would be nice if they didn't pay like a shit ton of money for it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Especially with our
One of the things I was reading on whenever we were looking up stuff for this bill was just the effects of some of the regulations and the things we've been talking about. And one of the major effects, I guess, is that, because there's a certain regulatory burden to enter to create a drug, and it's the same for basically any drug, that the amount of that burden. And so what happens is that the companies are only willing to shell out that kind of money to develop either things that a lot of people are going to use and that they're going to make their money back on, or if it's something that's just like, groundbreaking, there's nothing else like it. So then a lot of cures that could be being developed for some rare conditions end up just on the back burner because no one's willing to shell out the money up front to develop this drug because there's not that many people buying it.
right. They're more interested in the profit margins.
Yeah.
which is
So that's
understandable.
a pretty bad consequence.
Yeah, very bad.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anybody else want any topics on here? It's kind of just like
I just jotted some notes
Yeah.
down because I know, there's going to be some people that even despite what we've seen in the last year and despite, everything we've just said, not that, we covered healthcare. That's, we'd be out here.
that could be a whole episode topic right there.
That could
series.
literally be all we talk about for the rest of this podcast.
Another,
and we still wouldn't figure it out.
Another topic I definitely want to come back to is the whole price controls thing. In some other
Yeah, that's
episode.
good. Well, this will be a good
because-
segue.
Well, I was just want to say, because in Florida, I mean, this comes up every hurricane season with, the price gouging for water, well, so-called price gouging for water and gas, and generator prices skyrocket, plywood prices skyrocket every time the hurricane season comes around. And, there's always a lot of complaints surrounding that. So, yeah, we should definitely do an episode on that.
Yeah. I just want to talk about some, because like I just said, a lot of people are going to want to talk about socialized healthcare and whatever, and how, we should model our healthcare system on Canada, for instance, or Germany, or, whatever the example you want to give. But a lot of people don't realize, yeah, sure, the systems in other countries at a surface level seem pretty nice, right? I mean, cheap healthcare, it's all price control, you're not paying outrageous prices. The average wait time in Canada between a referral of treatment, so that's you going to the doctor saying, hey, you have AIDS, you need this. Well, maybe this is a bad example because it's just medication, but the average wait time between a referral of treatment and you actually getting that treatment is 23 weeks.
It's understandable.
That's a long time.
I'm sure no one's died between that time.
Yeah.
What is that? That's almost 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's outrageous. Yeah. Imagine you go to the doctor and you have some crazy condition. They're like, yeah, we'll get you in 7 months.
Yeah.
Imagine if that happened in America. What,
Yeah.
You'd be dumbfounded. You'd be like, what the fuck?
In Florida when you can't get an MRI next week.
I know.
Yeah, I was just
The
gonna
longest
say
I've waited was like a month or something.
My grandmother in Canada, she had an MRI just this year, and she told me that it took like 2.5 months, and the doctor was like nonstop telling her how lucky she was that she got in so soon and stuff. Like, could you imagine waiting 2 months for an MRI in the U.S. and your doctor's sitting
And then
there
being
telling you
told
how
you're
lucky
lucky.
you are?
That's
That's
like a slap in the face.
That's a slap in the face for them. Like, your doctor's sitting there telling you how lucky you are. You already prepaid their freaking paycheck.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't imagine that.
And then, then in Germany, anybody making less than $64,000 a year, they participate in a government healthcare system, much like any other socialized healthcare system. But Germany does a little bit different. They fund it on a quarterly basis. But the problem is the system is like regularly running out of money by the end of the quarter. So what you're seeing is, because it's a budgeted system, at the end of the quarter, you can't get, like, it's impossible to get anything done.
Wow.
You're just not getting your health.
You walk up to the clinic and there's a close sign on it.
Yeah, well, it's just like a
They're all inside just avoiding eye contact.
yeah, it's just a backdoor rationing, is it not? I mean,
Yeah, it is.
this is how much we have for this quarter,
Right.
and once we hit that
Yep.
money, you're you're not getting healthcare. Sorry, we don't have money.
They're at lunch for the next 2 months.
Just playing bingo.
Yeah. Well, I know maybe I didn't. I know I talked to you. I thought I talked to you about it, Chris, but a couple, maybe it was like a month and a half, 2 months ago, I stumbled across, it was actually a conversation with, I believe Michael Malice or Dave Smith. I don't know. One of the two, because, you know, I love those guys. Those guys are great. But they interviewed with these doctors from South Florida. They invented, it's called, direct primary care.
Yeah.
It's the name is kind of self-explanatory. It's a direct healthcare system directly with your provider. Right. So it's much like you can reduce it down to a Netflix subscription. You pay X amount of dollars a month, and I think the average was in between $50 and $100, depending on your situation.
Which is less than most people pay for a healthcare.
Absolutely,
plan.
Absolutely, probably.
Insurance in general,
fraction. And it's all spelled out. You pay the subscription. It tells you exactly what's included. You have unlimited access to your healthcare provider. And if you get anything else, it's you know exactly what you're paying.
Yeah,
right.
I think most of them have. That's like a beautiful illustration.
Way too much sense.
It's a beautiful illustration of what free market can do.
Yeah, a lot of them work together too. So then, like, if one of them doesn't have all the services you want, you can go to the other person's
right.
office
It's like
or
a
something.
network.
But yeah, they list out all the services that they have and what's included. You know exactly what you're getting, and a lot of them have MRI machines and like blood work labs and all that kind of stuff. Stuff that sometimes you have to jump through hoops with your health insurance to get. You can just walk in and be like, "Hey, I want an MRI," and then walk in the next day and be like, "I want another one."
Yeah, yeah,
And they'll be "I don't advise that, but I guess you paid for it."
Right? So any of our listeners struggling to find affordable healthcare, look into these things because they exist. They not only do they exist, but they're way more common than you'd imagine.
Especially in Florida.
Yeah, especially in Florida. I mean, it's where it was birthed. But I remember I have a friend who's living out in North Carolina right now, and she was venting to me about her health situation, and it was kind of ironic not ironic, but it was kind of crazy how it happened because I literally just finished listening to this podcast, and then we were talking about it, and I was like, "Yo, you need to look into this." Sure enough, she's hooked up with it now. So
that's awesome.
I think,
it's cool.
I think Kansas was another state where one of the people who came up with this system originated. So for all our fans out in Kansas. You guys, check
because fuck, we got a lot of them. That's got to be pretty cool though for you, right? Being homeless and all. I mean, that's
yeah.
Well, you're probably on some government shit, but
no, I mean that's just a great example of like even with which is not an excuse for it, but like with all this burden of regulation and like government just like putting its disgusting cock all over the healthcare system, like people can come through and like make these amazing like semi-free market. Innovations and like actually help people.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like,
and from some of the interviews I've listened with these people, I mean, these guys are true warriors. Like they just get shit on by the government constantly. They try to shut them down.
I'm sure.
And they work hard to keep these businesses open. So
I mean, as somebody with no health insurance, so like,
well, this is for you then. You need to look into that.
No, I mean, I'm good. I take vitamin D. But
Vitamin Daddy D.
But no, so like blood work is something where everybody's like always like, oh, it's so hard. You gotta go to the doctor. You gotta give them a reason to. Like through whatever loophole, there's online companies that call themselves your doctor, and you go on that website and you can order blood work through any like Quest Diagnostics or any local place you can go into, and it's like pretty affordable. Like I've done it multiple times, and it's like $20 for a simple thing. You sign up, you walk in, and it's just done. I mean, so again, there is like multiple, like there's other areas you can go to, like the thing Nick's talking about. Look online. There is ways that if you're struggling or like you're just tired of dealing with insurance companies, which makes complete sense. You can find things that will be helpful.
The how the insurance companies are involved in healthcare it's absolutely nuts.
That's just
the whole idea that you don't have a fucking clue what you're paying for is... I don't know how anybody can look at that system and be like, That's reasonable.
It's like the Canadian system.
That seems reasonable.
It's like the Canadian system where they negotiate the prices, except they do it on a case-by-case basis and behind closed doors.
Yeah, you have no clue what it ends up coming out to be. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, we, obviously have our own problems.
I mean, that's just something where insurance, from what I can remember, not that I was born, but like when it was made, it was insurance. It was like, hey, you put a little bit of money in. If something bad happens, then you have this like company that like, hey, you've been paying this long. We can help you out when this big thing happens.
Right.
Now, for the past 30 years, it's become this thing where it's like that's your primary care area, like where you pay through everything, where it's like not supposed to be.
Right.
Like,
it's supposed to be a backup plan.
Correct. It's like through government intervention, it's become this thing where.
Yeah, they're like a middleman, and they're like empowered by the government.
And they love it because they get fucking tons of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that podcast episode where they have these guys on with the healthcare system, they said that like 70% of their costs were administrative costs.
Oh, that's not surprising.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? I read something
Sounds
private
like every charity ever.
Yeah, private providers. So after the Affordable Care Act, went into place, it forced a lot of these physicians and smaller clinics to like consolidate. You see Health First buying up all these, smaller physicians, Stewart Medical, and they're a little bit bigger in Sebastian. What was the Cleveland? They just bought Vero Beach.
Yeah, your area.
Yeah, private providers are responsible for $39 billion a year just to simply comply with administrative aspects of regulatory compliance in the healthcare system.
Hey, at least not $40 billion.
Right. I mean, if we're rounding,
that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I think a lot of people, when you start talking about how the FDA and different regulatory systems, USDA, different stuff like that, and you say, okay, if you get rid of them, what replaces them? How do you what do you do? And I think there's a lot of different examples of that with different like certifications, like organic certifications, things like that have come out recently, where it's like it doesn't have to. It can be a private system and still do the same thing, maybe even better.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Like something that, and I think for instance, Whole Foods does something like that, where they're organic. They don't go through like they
have their own kind of classification.
Exactly.
I'm all for that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And even like when we do coffee, like when we order coffee, like raw coffee from different places, like a lot of these places are completely organic just by the fact that like they can't afford pesticides.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they don't have the stamp, so they're technically not organic.
Yeah.
People want that,
Yeah, there's a place in Fort Pierce, they do the same thing.
Yeah.
They're I mean, I guess there's no true way of knowing. You have to kind of, I guess that's, no, I'm not even going to say that's the benefit of having federal regulation, because that's never a benefit. But this place in Fort Pierce, you have to kind of trust them, but they're all organic, and they can't, they can't call themselves organic because
right,
they're not gonna, they're not paying.
Well, they have to pay like a ridiculous
pay
amount
the
of money.
fee.
Yeah,
and you want to
pay
go
the
there,
troll toll.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you want to go there and be able to buy something that's affordable,
right?
And you can't do it because if they were to get that certification, they would have to jack their prices way up,
Right. See, and I think you bring up a good point that why couldn't we have a private sort of regulatory system, not regulatory in the sense of you have to abide by these laws, but a privatized regulatory system, because then you have a broad range of certifications, not regulations, certifications.
Yeah.
You'd have a broad range of certifications where, if you want to and you can afford to pay for the top certification, you can.
Right.
Or if not, if you want to get something that you know is kind of middle of the road, it's organic, okay, maybe it's not, the top of the line, but I'm not paying twice the price for it, and I'm happy here.
And think about the situation where it's dire.
Right.
Right?
We're talking healthcare.
Yeah,
exactly.
you're talking about you're in a situation, healthcare, where you're in a situation where you have cancer, and in order to take on the burden of whatever chemotherapy or whatever you're going through, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. But
It's
and you
life
don't
or
have
death.
that money. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but if you were to go like like you said, like a different, like a more privatized
Right.
certification, that's that's cheaper.
Yeah.
because it doesn't cost so much money to feed into all the regulations that the FDA has. Would you not do it?
Not, and to add to that, I would be more inclined to trust a privatized, more free market certification than a government funded one. Because what does the market do if it turns out that certification is bullshit?
Right.
Where the government, if their certification is bullshit, guess
Right.
what? They're still getting paid.
Yeah, I mean,
They don't give a fuck because they're getting your tax
And then
money.
Hey,
in 2
sorry
years
about
from
it.
now,
Yeah,
everybody-
we
everybody
fucked
forgot.
up. Sorry.
sorry
Yeah.
about it.
It's like that I can't remember who tweeted it, but I'm just going to be quoting Dave Smith and Michael Malice all night. But
fine.
Dave Smith, he just posted a couple nights ago how he finds it crazy how these people can call themselves experts after getting it wrong so many times over the centuries, or over the decades rather.
Yeah. No, someone in a private
Fauci.
position who's that wrong is gone. Like that's it.
Yeah, if you
And
run a business and
if
you
another
fuck up,
company wants to take a chance with them, then that's their deal. They're gonna have to deal with that. But they don't get the benefit of just sweep it under the rug like
like
Right.
the federal
They,
government does.
they lose out. They're done.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the government could just be like,
Yeah.
sorry about it.
Yeah. Oh, well, a lot of times they don't even say they're sorry or they're wrong.
Right.
They just kind of switch up the script a little bit slowly.
Right.
Yeah, I think like a big, if you're looking at like a pushback to like that private like certification route would be like people like, I think you guys might mention like, how do you trust them? And like, well, how do you know they're not like lying and all that stuff? It's like, well, how do you know the guy that comes out to check your house that your permit was done correctly? How do you know he's not going to like just look at your house for 2 seconds and walk away and not make sure everything's done correctly?
right.
Like you don't. Like there's
well,
people.
I'd argue you'd know that he's more honest than the federal government because the market
No,
would force him
yeah,
out.
that's
Otherwise,
correct.
if he's giving bad services, he's not going to be in business long.
Well, I mean, look at Yelp, right? I mean, hate it or like it, mostly now probably it's all right. But like,
Yelp
you would have a
Bunch of
Yelp.
Karens.
Yeah, you would have a Yelp thing where it's like, I have the whatever turquoise certification on my whatever it is, right? And you feel like, oh, this certification's like, it has 3 stars out of 5. So like that's like like all right, you're getting like middle of the ground kind of area. You want the like platinum certification, then it's 5
gotta pay more.
stars. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that makes complete sense.
Yeah, and that kind of supports what I was just saying about having the, a tiered system where if
Yeah.
you have these private certifications,
Like,
you're going to have steps.
The market itself will lay them out in the order that they are appropriate.
That's
and,
adequate, right?
Yeah,
That
the
makes
other
sense.
thing that I think would be positive would be that the certification agencies themselves could like specialize, as opposed to like the FDA, which just claims to be the all-knowing arbiter
everything.
of everything.
Messiah.
Yeah,
Well, another thing to go with what Book just said is like, human responsibility for themselves. Like I should be responsible for what I do with my own body,
100%.
right? So if I want to take that risk to go with a private, certification,
You should be able to.
Why am I allowed to?
Mm-hmm.
I know we're getting into the.
No, but I mean,
It's
that's
a
what this
fantasy
podcast...
world, but
yeah, no,
that's
what,
the reality.
Yeah.
Right? Why can't I make that decision with my body?
Yeah.
Because the
we
government
know
says
better
that I
than
can't.
you.
Yeah, exactly. Because we know better than you. We know
Exactly.
what's better for you than you know
Yeah.
what's better.
And-
if you
and-
try to put that in your body, I'm going to lock you in a dog crate.
Okay.
And leave you there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you don't comply, I'll just shoot you.
Yeah.
Because I care that much about you, Cameron.
You're getting
Yeah.
sassy. You're getting sassy over here. With
Hey,
the
man,
guns.
got 2 bourbons in me. I'm ready for my 3rd.
Oh man.
Ready to shoot somebody.
Speaking of
No,
which,
what?
you guys want to take a break and get some ice?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a quick ad break to one of our sponsors. This podcast.
Today's sponsor is one that I use personally, and I love it. Look, guys, it's summertime and it's hot as hell outside. High temperatures means a lot of sweat. Lots of sweat means uncomfortable friction. That's right, guys and gals. Stop walking around in pain because your oversized, disgusting, flabby, disgusting thighs have rubbed your disgusting taint skinless and raw. Inflammation so bad you're caught walking around like you just gave birth to an unusually large child. Let our sponsor Gooch Glaze help you today. Like our customer John, a nurse walking long hours running from patient to patient. He found that a dollop of Gooch Glaze on his taint and inner thighs made it feel like he was ice skating rather than walking. Gooch Glaze is giving Politics on the Rocks listeners a discount right now till the end of summer. 25% off your first tube with code POTR25. Stop wasting your time and join the family of Gooch Glaze and glaze that gooch.
Glaze that gooch.
All right, so with all that being said, we took a break, so I'm not really sure how.
Yeah.
None of us remember how we left
Yeah,
off.
thank
so
you to the sponsor, by the way.
yeah. Thanks to our sponsor, whatever our sponsor was. We don't know yet because we record that. So, all right, just to kind of veer off track of the serious discussion, what we do with these ads, obviously by now, if you guys have listened to the first 2 episodes, you obviously know that they're real. So what we do is we write them beforehand, and then we record them live. And when we record them, that's our first time reading them. So there's 4 of us, obviously. 2 of us will write ads and then have the other 2 read them. So when we're reading them, those are real reactions. And we do it at the end of the night because by that point we're, a full bottle of bourbon in. And
Full
it's,
bottle down.
Yeah, and it's just kind of fun.
And we've been getting like a lot of requests for sponsorships, but we're exclusively taking companies that let us write our own material.
Right. Yeah. If you want to sponsor us, we're
Unless
open
the price
to it.
is right.
Yeah, we're open to it, but you have to give us, creative freedom. Sorry,
That's it.
That's just how it goes.
That's it.
Oh, by the way, our lawyer called us, so we can't actually refer to you as the guy on the corner anymore. I don't know. I have to talk to him some more, but
That's all right.
apparently there's some issue with
Lord.
how we're referring to him as the homeless guy. I don't know. I'll talk to him. We'll figure it out by next week. But
Sounds good.
yeah. So moving on, I guess
Right.
we'll get
Next
into
topic.
we'll get into the protecting women's sport bill or whatever the actual bill is.
I think it's called fairness.
Fairness in women's sports, I think.
Yeah.
something like
Do
that.
you have it? Do you want me to pull it up? I can read it.
Yeah, you can pull it up fast. While he's pulling it up, it's just a general bill that's kind of going around the United States right now. Idaho being the first state to put one of these in, is to ban transgender women from women's sports and public schools and colleges.
Right.
So,
It's going to take me too long to get the actual bill.
yeah.
Basically, what the bill says is if you're a transgender male to female, you can't play in women's sports. And if there's any dispute on your biological gender, that you have to go and have a physical. So a lot of the argument I'm seeing online is that they're trying to portray this bill as something that allows like administrative staff at the school to do this, quote, check of, male or female anatomy. And that's not, the bill it's fucking 5 pages. If you read the bill, it says nothing of that nature. It says, if there's a dispute, you have to go and have
To your physician.
Yes, you have to go to a legitimate licensed healthcare provider, and they'll do a quote check, which is just a fucking sports physical. I don't know if any of you have ever played sports in high school. You've had this check done already.
Yeah.
And they're trying to turn it into this, this crazy,
Rapey vibes.
yeah,
They're trying to put out rapey
anti-trans
vibes.
bill. It's
And
bullshit. It's kind of disgusting how they try and spin it, to be honest with you.
I think one of the things too you had to do possibly was also give your birth certificate, right? Was that in the Florida one? Or am I thinking of a different state?
No, it was in the Florida one.
Was it?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
have to
remember
show your birth certificate to show what gender.
What you came out as.
Wait. You're talking about
What you came
forms
out
of
as.
how you can verify.
Yeah, correct.
Because there's
The
a
sex,
little
right?
subsection where it lists a couple ways that you can, prove your gender, your birth gender, and amongst those ways,
Come to school naked.
come to school naked. That's it. No, but the birth certificate's one of them. The sports physical is another. There's some other ones. It's silly to watch. I mean, both sides really. Even the Republicans, they're like,
Protect
Trump
women's
signed
sports.
this on, or not Trump, Ron Desantis signed this on the first day of Pride Week, which, me being a troll, I can appreciate, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck is, like, what are we doing? Just arguing
So,
these stupid
flexing.
points. Yeah,
So,
right.
Just to clarify, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but the bill only affects men who have transitioned to women.
The
It's
bill-
not, well, I guess boys who transition to girls in this case, but so it doesn't affect if let's say a female transitions to a male and wants to play on a male sports team.
There's no, there's nothing that specifies anything about men's sports. I think it's specifically for women's
female
sports.
sports.
Okay.
Which, I mean, if you think about it, kind of makes sense because there's really no benefit there's no disadvantage to boys currently in men's sports
That's because
having
you're
a
sexist.
me.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different topic,
No
but
response.
no, I'm not.
You
Guys.
hear that pause?
Love
Yeah.
women.
Guilty.
No, but
I
yeah.
love women.
So
I love women.
So it has led up. I think there's only like maybe
Love
5 other
mommies.
states who've done this kind of thing or are going to. Idaho is the first, and I think each one has led that open where it's like they only focus on the male to female transition.
Mm-hmm.
But what this has done is opened up a little loophole for civil rights, institutions. Say that's discrimination since you're not putting it to female to male. You're focusing on the female.
So they're trying to blow up the party.
Correct.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, I
isn't there a lot of laws that apply to
It
women
seems
and not
petty,
men?
doesn't it?
It is, but I mean, if you're like, I don't know, my point of view,
Vice versa.
if DeSantis and I'm assuming this is mainly Republican Florida Congress putting this through, are gonna,
Good
Damn.
lord.
that guy is
That guy.
And
go-
our
it's
other
got a hog.
spot, the
Yeah.
dickhead in the Mustang.
cut off mufflers
Yeah.
We do this outside,
Yeah.
obviously.
on Cam's porch.
Right by the road.
But
In the road, pretty much.
no, yeah. So I don't know if you're like looking at this as like, okay, we want to put this law to really protect women's sports, and maybe Idaho's done this, maybe one of the states done it, and we've seen that this loophole leaves it to legal battle that could be, actually put this law on its back. Why wouldn't you make sure you put in that?
That's a good point.
Like-
That's actually a really good point.
like why not? Like regardless if your opinion on this is like fuck DeSantis for doing this or like DeSantis is the best, fuck the trans, whatever he might think or not think. But like why wouldn't you do that instead of possibly wasting taxpayer dollars putting this bill through?
to have it shot down in
Yeah.
the courts. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
No, me either. I mean, it's like I don't know like what's going through their heads. Like I don't know. Like
I think part of it is to I hate continuing to use this term, but to rally the base. You know what I mean?
oh for sure, this is a Republican like. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
we really care about women all of a sudden.
yeah, right.
I saw. I mean, this is like a pretty. I was kind of surprised at how close it was, but I guess he's with the majority on this, which is 54% according to polls agree with this type of bill. I thought it'd be a little bit higher, but it's kind of divided along party lines. It seems.
So, what's our opinion on this? I mean, I think this is a pretty open bill that we can like.
So this is, and maybe I have this wrong, and call me out if I do.
Sure, no problem.
My fellow anarchists, free market anarchists. I feel like when it comes to, I mean, it's hard to apply the same libertarian / anarchist principles to a state level thing that's being implemented to a taxed schooling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a
Completely.
right. You get what I'm saying? So it's not like he's forcing free companies.
This is what you get when the state runs the schools.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And this is a funny.
You have no choice. Everybody has to do the same thing.
That's what I
There's
mean.
There's no choice.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's kind of tricky to apply libertarian principles to this because it affects a state-funded, tax-funded system. You get what I mean?
No, completely. Like again, this is what happens when. I mean, for everybody, I'm assuming who's against this, right? It's for state-run schools.
Yeah,
This is
seems
kind of-
pretty correlated. Yeah.
This seems what you kind of get. Like, it's a good eye opener for them. Like, hey,
Right.
when the state runs your schools and what they do to your children, this is what can happen.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they can do things you don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like in
Homeschool your kids.
like in Germany, they and I mean we see this in the U.S. too because people take the separation of church and state thing to the extreme. But in Germany, they're divided a lot like the U.S., where certain portions of the country are very religious still, and certain portions aren't. And in Bavaria, whenever the German government made it illegal to display crosses and stuff on schools in Bavaria, they straight protested pretty hard against it. They went out of their way to hang up crucifixes in schools and stuff. But eventually they lost, and today that's the rule in Germany is there's no religious symbology in school at all.
Good beer in Bavaria.
Good what?
Good beer.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been there?
No, but I've gotten imported stuff.
Hofbrau.
I wish I've been there.
Hey, when this podcast gets big enough, I mean, it's already pretty fucking huge.
We'll
but,
record this in Munich.
Yeah, we'll Oktoberfest, live from Oktoberfest.
I'm looking forward to that.
Live from
Yeah.
the EU.
That would be a shit show.
We have to get vaccinated, though.
Yeah.
Oktoberfest is pretty much all Americans. now.
Yeah, I've heard it's very Americanized now. Has it always been? I mean, you would know better than I would.
I probably since I don't know. I'd say if I had to take a guess, I'd say probably the 90s is when it started getting really popular with Americans.
From
And
that
then-
one movie where they
Yeah,
did
from
the
that
boot
movie.
chug
Was it
or-
called Oktoberfest or no?
Yeah, there was a movie called Oktoberfest. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's what you guys are talking about. With the boot?
Yeah,
Das
with the
Yeah.
boot. Yeah. That was a great
Right.
movie.
Yeah, so I don't know, and I actually I was just talking with somebody about how it's weird because there's some libertarian ideas that only work contingent on other libertarian ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, this one, you should have, and I guess you do have the right? There are private schools and you can put your kids in private schools, but
Right.
there's no private schools that have sports teams.
Or
Oh, sure there are.
yeah, but they don't.
Not-
they don't compete. Against
Yeah, they don't
the-
compete in
schools.
at the same level.
Yeah,
you know?
it's not the same. I mean, you're
you know you're not competing against UF and the
No.
SEC.
Yeah.
No, you have your own thing.
right. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think for the people who are into voting, yeah, I think
So
if
you're how that
you're
goes.
into voting, yeah, I mean, whether you're for or against it, this is what you get when you vote. This is what you get when you buy it. You play by the system's rules.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
So you're, in other words, you're saying the solution to this is
to not vote and fuck
well,
all
no,
of them.
I mean, yeah,
ignore them out of existence.
destroy
no,
the
if you had
the
if you
Department
had
of
private
Education.
if you had
Yes.
private okay, say in the situation where there wasn't government schooling and there wasn't a board of education and there wasn't all this government influence in schooling, right?
Yep.
And they gave us the money that they tax us for to send our kids to school, and we could send them to a private school. And if you wanted to send your kid to a school where
Right. If
They
you
get-
wanted to send your kid to a school
Yeah.
where you have 350-pound men who decided that morning that they want to be a fucking girl and join the female wrestling
Yeah.
team and,
Right.
give fucking hand out concussions like they're ice cream cones, hey, you have the right to do that.
So I
Right.
I
Right.
think the argument, from the perspective of someone who would disagree with this bill would be that for the most part that's not the reality. Most of these people aren't 350-pound men. So I guess that would probably be their argument is that they're
Right, yeah. And I guess it's a fair one because
Yeah, kind of.
yeah.
it is and it isn't, because then you read those stories about, the dude who is breaking women's skulls in women, combat sports.
In UFC, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
yeah, I mean, there's
obviously not good.
the physiological aspect is definitely a huge issue.
whoa,
whether
whoa,
you're-
whoa. What are you trying to
'cause,
say, Chris?
I mean, even if you're not trying to be a jacked dude, if you had testosterone running through your body at during development, your bones are naturally denser, your muscles are naturally denser. It doesn't really matter if you're working out and jacked, you still have physiological advantages that make you more dangerous.
Right.
So I
They
think
make you a liability when you're playing sports against women.
So I think I would anybody can say if they don't, but like around this table we'd all agree that if you are a biological male, you go through puberty,
I haven't yet.
to some extent, right? And then
Still waiting on that.
Still working on
even
it.
if you're midway through puberty and you transition, you're going to have some, if not a good amount, more of a biological advantage against biological women.
Yes.
So like based on that, like middle ground or like that basis, this is kind of where you get like really tricky, right? So it's like, so do we stop these people from going? Because like that's where like a lot of the argument goes. Like people are like, oh, there's actually these scientists that come out saying there is no, because once they take the estrogen pills and all this stuff, which is like has been debunked,
reverses all the effects
Yeah.
of testosterone since they were born.
Retarded.
yeah, it's been
Yeah,
debunked like to no one's end.
Over and over and over.
But like, so like now it's like, okay, so now are we protecting women from biological men who transitioned to now inherently have a physiological advantage? But what happens when it's a woman who is born with a physiological advantage, right? So like that's like the closest argument I've seen that's been like, okay, that's like a good place to discuss. The
Oh,
only
you're saying, take for instance a woman like Ronda Rousey.
yeah, or any
she's
woman who's like
obviously
one of a million, right?
insane.
Right.
Who's like who might have like
Yeah.
actually natural like high testosterone versus male, and like all these things who have broader shoulders,
Right.
but she's
Dicks.
genetically or biologically a female. Like, yeah,
That's another.
but like, so like,
hung like elephants. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
That's actually a better argument than what I found when I looked it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw a lot of just like
Nonsense.
sob stories, like
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
anecdotal.
I mean, you're always gonna
sob
find those.
stories. Yeah.
yeah.
so like, and the
Correct.
biggest, no, it's just
No,
this last
please
part.
go.
Out, sorry, is like the biggest one that
Hurry
like
the fuck up.
all the people will put on a pedestal, which even DeSantis did on his like speech about it when he had the little thing going on, was the Idaho case, where these two biological males transitioned. Now they're in like track and field, and they just fucking
Smoking
destroyed
them, right.
the entire like 3 years or 2 years they were on the female side.
Yeah, one of the track and field and wrestling were the two where I saw so many cases of just like ridiculous things that were happening that I just couldn't believe it was allowed to happen.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
like
it's-
in wrestling, like just like biological males just picking up chicks and dropping
them on
Suplexing
their
them
Like,
over the.
It's just like
Golly.
it's like tough to watch,
And
they're
this is
just
a
trying to have
classic-
fun. They're just trying to have
Yeah,
fun.
this is one of those classic things where you have to kind of attack the left from the left, right? It's like, well, all right, now you have to decide:
Yeah.
do you want to be a feminist or
Yeah.
do you want to be pro-trans? Because you can't be both in this
No, you
situation. I don't
can't.
think.
That's the
can't.
bottom line, is that women are entitled to have a sports league where they can compete against each other and not be assaulted.
Literally, though, yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's ridiculous that
Yeah.
to think that people would say that women don't have a right to say no. We just want to play against each other.
Right. If the women want to have a professional soccer team that 12-year-old boys can beat, they should have the right to do
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where like
If you don't get that reference,
if
look it up.
anybody listening is like, well, men don't have an inherent advantage over women. Like,
You're a dumbass,
Well,
and you're lying to
yeah,
yourself.
you're an idiot. But
So-
like,
You're just
it's
ignoring
been proven that
reality.
like professional women's like soccer teams have been rivaled with high school soccer teams, men's high school.
This
like,
Olympic women's soccer team was beat by the U15.
Exactly.
Yeah,
US
that's the reference I just made,
Yeah.
guys. By
Yeah.
the way,
and
but yes,
and it was like bad. It was bad.
Like-
it was like 8-0 or something.
Alright, so,
like
like,
that. I don't
so
remember.
in
Right.
our soccer team, the U.S. is actually pretty fucking good.
Very
for
good.
yeah,
Like,
across the
international.
country.
And that-
international for
That's
the
not
women's
to
sports, yeah.
put women down or anything. That's not.
No, of course not.
But it's just the reality of the comparative advantage.
Yeah.
Physically.
So when
Yeah.
that's and that's the silly part about it is like they tried to make that argument. Like I like when I did my research, I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to
Cam, lean into your mic.
Okay, when I was yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
he's in there.
No, when I was trying to like look, I'm like, what is the argument in your argument about actually women that had more testosterone when they were born and being super rare was better than the arguments that I was finding where they were making the point that some women are typically better at some sports than men, and I just felt like it made the same point that we just made. You know, I was like, wait, so what side are you on? You know, it was like it seemed so silly to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Did you guys were you ever on a sports team when you were in school where there was a girl?
No.
Like on a boys sport team?
Yeah.
I wasn't on the team, but I think I think it was our JV football team at Sebastian River. They had a girl try out, and I want to say she made it as like a kicker or something.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
I don't play that.
So I think like if a woman can be, you know, good enough to compete on a men's team, then, you know, if everyone in that league and on that team is okay with that, like that's my main thing is like if you want a league where trans can participate and stuff, you can always create that, and everyone who plays agrees to those rules, and then that's, you know, that's
right.
that's all fair game. But to force people to accept certain rules whenever they want, you know, they're. But back to what I was getting at with like girls on the. I had two different teams that I played for. When I was in middle school in Texas, we had a girl on the football team, and that was interesting. And she was like badass.
Yeah.
She was like,
She's a
honestly,
cone-fed bitch.
I didn't even know she was a female until like a couple of weeks after we started, to be quite honest. But she was really good, and it was like, you know, she obviously belonged there. But whenever I was in high school on my hockey team, there was a girl on my team, and she was like heterosexual, you know, and it was because, you know, if anybody's ever played hockey or football or any of these contact sports.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a physical sport, and it's, you know, the locker room culture is just something that, it's very awkward if there's, you know, a heterosexual female in the locker room. You know, we had our captain doing dick helicopters after big wins.
Oh no!
And you know, that kind of stuff
not
gets a little weird.
Correct.
But I guess they're, you know, with the trans sports, they're bringing dick helicopters to female sports. So 100%.
That's an unintended benefit. Look at that. Who would have thought?
Oh Lord!
That's true.
So yeah, no, that it does get awkward. You know, especially with whenever everybody's heterosexual.
So, when Chris talks, does that sound like he has a mustache?
Because he has a fucking beautiful one.
Can you guys hear this thing tickling the mic?
It's a swift like brushing against the.
Yeah,
the
it's
pop
just like a
filter.
scruffy sound.
So you got a nice stash.
Yeah, dude, he used to have this, I don't even know what you would call it. It was like it like came down from his sideburns, connected to like, I guess where your mustache would come down, and then it went like up over, and he had nothing on his chin.
Good
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
It's like 1800s capitalist
Yeah.
prospector vibes.
Yeah, I digged it. I don't think his fiance did too much, but that thing was wicked. It was almost like a Hulk Hogan, but it like went all the way up to his ears. It was pretty. It was impressive looking. I gotta admit.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yes, brother. But Book, you gotta adjust the bottom of that thing. I think
I'm trying.
Book's never
like you're
used a
gonna
torch
blow up
lighter
in a few
before.
minutes, bro.
Yeah.
you
You gotta put it right up to your eyebrows.
Yeah,
There
suck
we
on
go.
that thing. Yeah, boy. Shit.
This is part of the podcast where
We've had way too much
everything goes
bourbon.
downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of bourbon, can I get a little bit more of that?
Yeah. Here you go.
We're getting close to our. It's gonna be a splash at this point.
No worries. No, I think
you top me up a little bit.
maybe a good discussion to have too is like kind of rolls into like, this thing of like, so like, yeah, you know, this transition, male to female may have an edge, and then, you know, is that more or less what you get from a 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million woman?
Yeah.
You know, which is a good discussion to have, and it's like probably meant for people who are like involved in these programs and like these competitional areas where they can have discussions, and people who are on those, you know, faculties who are not part of the state can figure that out. But just for us to have like, I don't know, do we think it's fair? then you get into like this big thing of like what is fairness in sports, right? Like especially like in a professional league where, you know, I don't care what anybody says, anybody on the top is doing some type of performance enhancing drug.
I think I could agree with that.
And most
To an
people,
extent.
yeah, and most people say performance enhancing drug, they may think like testosterone or like steroids, and that's not necessarily it. The biggest thing for athletes, mostly no matter what sport it is, it's recovery time. The faster you can recover from any type of training or workout, the more you can put into your next training or workout, and that has
compounding effects.
More than you can imagine than it would be to have bigger biceps, which is what most people think.
Right.
Oh, having big biceps is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who has, you know, gone... I think everybody here has gone through a phase where we worked out a lot for, you know, 6 months and then went out of it, you know?
6 months? That's too long, bro.
Yeah. but my point is, like, you can see, like, the compounding effects. Like, if as soon as you stop for 2 weeks, you just feel like absolute fat bag of shit,
Dick
you know?
balls.
Yeah. But like coming from me, like this is my own personal opinion, like I think PEDs should be allowed in any professional sport.
Say that again?
PEDs, performance enhancing drugs.
Whoa,
Or
with the terminology. I never heard that before.
Yeah, PEDs? No?
No, I never heard of that.
No, yeah. So like
You
I
call
probably
yourself
sound
a
like
Joe Rogan Experience fan?
Oh, no, I don't really. I mean,
no, but like first off, like one, people who take
I
them
like his guests. Okay,
Yeah.
it's different.
are like always ahead of the curve.
yeah.
So no matter what WADA who tests for it, they're always behind on what they're doing currently. Two, they're always finding ways to either change up what that drug is, what the peptide is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're taking it already. So my whole point of getting to this is like, one, is that fair or not? In my opinion, it is. Because one, then it gets like a really good, you know, documentary, which I'm not a big fan of, but like one that I enjoyed was Bigger, Faster, Stronger, was done like 10 years ago by one of the guys, who Mark Bell's brother,
Kanye West.
yeah, Kanye West. But like he went into it pretty well, and like he brought up things where it's like, you know, Tiger Woods getting his eye correctional surgery, is that a performance enhancing drug?
Ooh.
Right, when he's golfing, like
If he can see better.
him fixing his eyes, like how is that not performance enhancing?
He's
Like
a robot.
Yeah.
like people who are able
What
to,
about when John Daly drinks at 18 of Busch Light before
Yeah.
he hits the golf course? Is that performance enhancing drug?
Fucking
the
dude.
moment John Daly doesn't want to be a big fat
Stellar.
piece of shit, like
Stellar.
is the time that we'd be scared. 'Cause he
Absolute
might be an
legend.
actual god.
Absolute legend.
Oh man, you watch and everybody else is walking and he has a golf cart.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's figured it out.
Yeah.
Right?
He's
Cheating the
simply
system.
built different.
Makes millions being
Drinking beer on a golf course.
the most unfit person on the athletes worldwide. But yeah,
No, but you bring up a good point though, because it's like, where is, I don't want to say the standard, but
where's the line?
where's like the baseline? Because like you said, for me, for instance, I have shitty eyes, so you know, if I don't want to wear my contacts, like you said, if I got LASIX, is that a performance enhancing drug, or am I just being brought to the baseline in regards to my eyes?
Yeah,
And it's like, and to further elaborate on that, where's the baseline, and then where is the, you know, the upper level, like where it becomes an advantage? Like,
Yeah.
how do you gauge that?
and then like a lot of that is like, you know, if we take to, in fact, like say we just acknowledge if it's true or not. Everybody, again, we're talking professional sports now, which is off the topic of the bill and advise, which is again school K through 12 in some universities. But like professional sport wise, like if everybody's on PEDs, you know, then it comes down to one, genetics, right? Because no matter how many PEDs you take, if the person either has better genetics or better work environment, they're gonna be better than you. All other things even. So it's like it's this multifactorial area where it's like, how do you even start to compile what is fair and what's not? And it's like, I don't know if we're in the next like 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, we're gonna get to this point where it's just like open season and like,
We won't be here in 100 years, but yeah.
well, I mean, I will,
Yeah.
but
You'll
yeah,
be the last one left.
Elon Musk, dude,
Yeah.
he's gonna make us live forever.
But chips in our brains, and we're going to be symbiotic.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to bring up the point, like, what I don't know what fair is. Like,
That's a fair point, but I think that's why divisions are created. You know what I mean? Like divisions in sports and
yeah,
stuff.
and that's like a general place to like put people in, right? Either it's weight, gender, and all these things. But like even within those, you have huge differentials.
Yeah, but I guess the argument against what you're saying is that the difference is marginal enough that if the people on the lower level of those divisions wanted to get to the upper level of that division, it's a matter of putting in more work.
Maybe. I don't know if that's completely true.
Yeah.
I think there are people who, and again, I'm not a big sports person, but like if you look at, I'm trying to think.
I'm not disagreeing. I definitely think there are people who have a upper hand physically, but I think the whole division system, I think that's kind of what is that, like, that's intended to kind of mitigate those.
No, for sure. Like that's the reason why you don't have like, and MMA I guess is a big sport
Popular
right now.
Sport, yeah.
That's why they have weight divisions, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't have heavyweights just literally Spartan kicking welterweights into the gate and then like dudes. Yeah, which obviously makes sense, right? Like, but like when it comes down to, if I'm on the topic of MMA, John Jones, who's been caught, dosing drugs.
Yep.
No matter what has been released about him, it's been supplements or whatever.
No, bro, I don't do steroids. I microdose them.
Or it's come up in a year. Like this is bullshit.
He's like, no, bro, I don't do cocaine. I just microdose
it. But with him, I would have to say, even if he didn't do PEDs, he probably would still be the best there ever was in that sport.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'd argue I am, but
yeah. There's always someone better. But I mean, it's just like I don't know.
Not with me though.
Sports is just such a crazy place to start. Like, you can get these general ideas, like said, divisions and like weight classes, which does help make things even within these small parameters. Okay, we can kind of keep people within these.
Yeah.
Then within that, the best will rise without like overly physical things like weight and height and all these things come into play. But like track and field, like if you're just not fast and there's someone who works just as much as you or even more who's genetically gifted, like it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to beat Usain Bolt.
That's something God, I can't stand him, but that's something that Ben Shapiro talks about a lot. And I mean, he's right. He's like, the kid that's 5'2" and 120 pounds, like,
not a basketball player.
Yeah, you're never going to play NBA.
Yeah.
Like, there's a very, very slim chance, but, like,
yeah,
the chance is so slim that I can basically say you're not going to
Well, I mean, we're not created equally, right?
Right.
And that's
that's whoa, Cameron, that's a little extreme. But no, that's kind of where I was about to get to is, like, the argument you're making, you could say that about kind of anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you should.
Yeah, it just all comes back to, as Bookie would say, government bad, taxes evil. So basically just this whole thing where, in reality, the line that you would draw it requires a whole lot of nuanced just like research and just figuring out where this line is. And then after that you have to figure out who meets this line, who's above this line, who's below this line. So if you were going to, allow transgenders to participate in women's sports and you were going to have this nuanced way of figuring it out, it'd be like way too complicated. So what they end up doing is they just say no one's allowed. And so, like in reality, there could be a more nuanced system to it, but it's tough to figure out where that line is.
Well, I think no matter what, you're still going to have that same issue that Bookie brings up, right? No matter how you slice this argument, you're going to have that issue. So I guess in a roundabout way, I said exactly what you just said. How do you find those lines and how do you define them clearly so that there's no interpretation?
What I like how you guys introduced this conversation, which I thought was really cool because right away you want to go into the very typical conversation of like, yeah, females can't, compete in men's sports or whatever because of this reason, testosterone, blah, blah, blah. The same kind of argument, or you could go the other way and say whatever. But I like how you guys introduced it in the sense that, like, it's like, okay, how can we really have a conversation about this when we don't believe in the traditional structure as it is, right? Where you have schools who dictated by the government about how things should be and shouldn't be, right? And we're back from the perspective where we say, there should be private schools where the collective says, oh, this school should be able to do this, and this is where I'm going to put my money and interest in sending my kid to school, whether or not, and then if I want something different, that I could go to this school where I, put my money and so forth, and so I should have the choice, right, and how my collective group of people thinks and how they want to do sports in their school, right?
Yeah.
So that I think that presents like an interesting perspective on the whole thing, because if you actually had that take place, you would find a bunch of different ideas of how it should be done, and I think in some ways,
and then it's left up to you to decide what you want for your kid, or you know what I mean, like how you want.
Well, it goes back to you get to make that decision,
right?
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's
and I think you would find, because you'd have so many different options on that this is the way that it works maybe best. Mm-hmm. You would come up with a creative solution. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just have one way, how do you come up with solutions?
People would agree. People in regions would agree on a common solution, because how can you compete against other teams if you guys don't agree on the rules for who can be on the teams and things like that. So yeah, definitely like little groups of schools would pop up that compete against each other, and they all agree on the rules and things like that.
So that being said, and I really enjoyed the way you guys started the conversation, but like that,
dude, are you trying to fuck me?
Yeah, I'm getting a little wet.
Okay. Sick son of a gun. All right. So, but that being said, like if we just go with that idea, right, and like that, like say that's reality.
Yeah.
Like, does that make us more? How do I say this? Does that make us more separate as like a country and as like a city or whatever we're at? Does that make us more? What is the word I'm looking for?
No, I think that's
Does that make us more polarized? If we say
I think you bring up a really good point, and I'm not sure, because as far as I know, it doesn't
happen that way.
It's never been.
I'd find it hard for things to get more polarized than they are now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you think about like the definition of polarized, and comes from like magnetism. There's two opposite forces, and that pretty much describes our political system right now.
Well, it's because,
and so if you have multiple opposing forces, and possibly even like collaborating forces that can come up with compromises that everyone can accept and things like that, that would definitely be more beneficial than you have two ways of looking at it, and one of them's going to win, and it's whoever is in power right now. That's the way.
So that's the thing. I think it comes back to the idea that like we want one party to control everything,
right?
Yeah,
and
that's
crazy.
So interesting that like we want like full control.
Yeah,
whatever it is, our ideology, we want like control over everybody. Why?
Yeah, because it's interesting. And I can't remember. I was reading a book. I can't remember what book it was.
You read a book?
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Was it the Bible?
What the fuck, bro? You don't believe I read books?
I hope so. No, just kidding.
No. But no, it's actually funny you say that, because the argument in this book is that it's interesting how, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Cameron, how it's weird how we all, when it comes to politics, it's so like personal, and so we want all of the control.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like in America, we live amongst, you go to the grocery store and you're checking out in line and you strike up a conversation with the guy behind you, right? He could be a Muslim, he could be a Christian, he could be a Jew, he could be whatever. Sure. You don't care, right? You just you coexist with so many different religions.
Right.
And I mean, even sitting here right now, there's, I mean, we all believe in drastically different things.
Yeah.
Yet we can still like, I understand what you believe. I respect what you believe.
Yeah.
Say, all the way around the table.
You guys should believe what I believe.
Yeah. But no, it's like, no
Unless you
one.
have some delicious Kool-Aid I can drink, then
Yeah.
not interested.
We'll talk about
I gotta
that
say,
off
those wafers y'all be handing out, them bitches are a little stale. But, or you guys don't do that, do you? Do you guys do that at your church?
here. No, I mean, yeah, we have communion.
Yeah, alright.
I mean, I'll give you a wafer.
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds sexual.
Okay,
I kind of
no,
like that.
it's not. Go
All
ahead.
right. Yeah, it is. He's lying to us. But no, it's. I think it comes down to the fact that it has to do with your own freedom, right? Like,
Yeah.
so for instance, you believing what you believe and you practicing what you practice in regards to religion has no real effect on me. No real effect on me. It doesn't impede my freedom. It doesn't impede my ability to do what I want to do and live the way I want to live. But when it comes to politics, at the end of the day, it doesn't really it does, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like most of these,
Yeah, like day-to-day stuff.
yeah, like,
But it
it's
could.
just, yeah, but it could, and
It
I
could.
think that's why.
Yeah.
But your
People
your
get so-
intent when you go to the voting booth and you submit
Exactly.
your vote is to,
Force your way of life on
exercise
somebody.
your will onto someone else. yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's why politics has this really unique way of being so polarizing, like we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I wanted to circle back to what you were saying about how you were saying, do you think that having multiple different, we were talking about it in the sense of schools, but if you extrapolate that up into communities and you have these different communities that live how they want to live, kind of in the, like you said earlier, the air quotes libertarian dystopia.
Yeah.
And you were
Utopia?
saying, utopia. I'm sorry. But you were saying, do you think that would make us more polarized as a nation?
Right.
And this is how I think this is how I see it playing out. I would think that more people would invest in their own communities and invest their time and energy into their own communities rather than fighting these endless and uphill battles of, fighting the federal government to be able to live the way that you want to live.
Right.
So if you have, like Malice always talks about, a national divorce where we kind of just separate as a country, I think we would see more. I guess you could argue the same way that you would just divulge into another split at some point, right? But I really think that if there were multiple communities, I think people would invest more time and energy into building their own community rather than fighting the other community. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And there's no way of knowing if that's actually how it would work out.
Well, because we never
but-
tried
I think it actually is a lot
exactly.
easier because
easier to what?
to
Clarify.
believe to believe what you just said.
Right, okay.
Because I think
Because I'm always right.
that, and because I think, I don't know, who knows what the number is, but let's just say 80 to 90% of America doesn't get involved in politics.
Right.
And they just do what you just said. They're in their own community.
If I'm not wrong, I think it's over half of people don't vote. So,
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
So it's like, it's a huge
Yeah.
chunk of
But even,
America.
like,
that
Yeah,
doesn't
only
even
what, like
get involved.
160 million people, I think, voted in this past election?
Yeah, and that
Or
was
almost
the most
300 million
ever.
people. Yeah.
But
So,
that's just like voting, which is like, but to vote is like the big thing, right? To get beyond that, which is like get involved with like what's going on in day-to-day politics. Obviously, that's even absolutely not like
Right.
larger people don't even get involved with that. They just are involved with their community, right?
wait, you don't mean reposting shit on social media is getting involved, Bookie?
Yeah, that's activism.
Yeah,
I've been posting so many memes, just trying to change the world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Chris with his black square.
You'll-
Blackout Wednesday or whatever it was.
Yeah, but I think again that does happen where people are involved with their own community, they're doing their own thing, with their own church.
Well, that's what I didn't want to cut you off, but that's exactly what I was going to say. You see that in religion a lot.
Yeah, but
you don't see. Well, I guess you do in other parts of the country. But
yeah, or
you
the
don't.
world.
You don't see. For instance, you take a Baptist church in the community and whatever other denomination church. You don't see them arguing each other and trying to change the other church into the church. You know what I mean? Like,
Are you saying a temple doesn't go and attack a mosque? here in the United States on the daily.
Wait, is this the episode where we're going to get into Middle Eastern politics?
We did say it was. We did say it was the third episode. I don't know.
No. Finish your point.
Yeah.
No, and you're right. It doesn't happen. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
I think that's. I mean, that was kind of the end of my point. It's just you don't see it with religions, and that's. I don't know if it's because there's multiple of them and they're a little bit smaller, and the people there genuinely care. You know what I mean? Like, I think if there were two religions in this country, you'd see the exact same thing we see with politics.
I agree. Yeah,
So
I
don't know.
completely.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point. You know, and also like, collectively they come up with like creative solutions. I think sometimes, like okay, like there's a poor community in our a poor area in our community. Well, let's go like feed them or whatever, or donate to this certain thing, and they collectively, however you feel about tithes or whatever, but like they collectively like raise the money and go do that thing, and
I think the important thing to know is collectively, but voluntarily.
Right. Good point.
Yes.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And based on principle.
So wait, are religions libertarians?
Or are they socialists?
Or are they socialists? Oh shit!
Well, they can't be socialist because it's voluntarily.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah, that's why I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to be there,
Yeah. You don't have to invest your time.
but you'd also could say some of them are like a sort of a dictatorship. cult
Like if you're not
thing,
here,
but-
you're going to hell type of thing.
Like anything, once someone gets enough power, they can just run with it.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still voluntary.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
You can leave anything
You don't
want.
have to be there.
Unless
Yeah.
you're in South
Exactly.
America with a guy with Kool-Aid.
It still didn't have to
Jim
be.
Jones.
Oh, I guess
You get stuck there.
Yeah, he kind of stuck you there.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize too with that whole thing is they always say, "Oh, drink the Kool-Aid," and everybody was like, "No, they were like stuck there, like
Yeah.
they couldn't leave."
They're in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, no, I mean
the
also
rainforest.
there were guards and things like that.
Yo,
I
I'm
mean,
gonna be completely honest. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Right
Oh.
now.
the-
You guys lost me.
Jim
real
Jones.
quick.
We're talking
Yeah.
about Jim Jones.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but no,
Drink the. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
wait, what?
And so he got all those people there,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because they believed in him and the stuff he was saying.
Yeah.
Whatever, he was charismatic and he appealed to them. But when they were there, a lot of people realized that like this is not okay. He kind of lost his mind there.
Yeah.
And like they like wanted to leave, but they
Couldn't.
couldn't leave because
Yeah.
like there's guys walking around with machine guns.
Yeah.
So a lot of people they're like, oh, drink the Kool-Aid and everybody, they were like all persuaded to do this. And sure, there was some people like that, but there was a lot of people who were like,
I need to get the fuck out of here.
yeah, how do I get out of here?
Yeah.
Like this is not good. Like I'm recognizing that,
We're not in a good situation.
yeah, like there's people with machine guns. He's like screaming at people and so on. But that's beside the point.
I said, wait, they got machine guns there? Is this guy still around? Can
Well,
I go get a machine
Or
gun?
he's definitely not
Yeah,
around.
Where was it? In
No, I know.
Nicaragua? Is that where it happened?
Somewhere in Central America.
Yeah, he took. I don't know where exactly he took him, but he took him.
It was like the north of South America.
Yeah.
I think it was Nicaragua.
But yeah,
I'm not
it
sure.
was a wild event. But a lot of people make the assumption that like
Yeah.
they didn't
Everybody
recognize.
was there voluntarily.
Yeah, and they were like just totally stupid, like religious people, and some of them were, but a lot of them.
I'm sure a lot of them started to realize at the end there what was
They did,
happening.
and they didn't have anywhere to go. That was the problem,
Mm.
and they were kind of like forced to do the things that, whatever.
Thinking of some new scenery, a quick getaway, not enough shit, piss, and famine in our streets? Well, today's sponsor, North Korea Air, has just set up a direct flight to its sister state, Florida. Use the code POLITICSONTHE-ROCKS to get 20% off your second seat. Extra fee per each baggage and personal weight over 80 pounds. Here at Politics on the Rocks, we took a company trip over to North Korea to see the sights. We stayed with a lovely family, the Rangs. Great family, husband, wife, and 3 adorable kids. They showed us the sights, cooked us 1 square meal a day and never had us wanting. Wait, what? We're gonna move past that part. No, no one's perfect. And near the end of our trip, Mrs. Rang got a little glib on the topic of America, Middle East relations. We let it go as it was our last day. The morning we departed, we played a quick game of Frisbee with the kids. As we departed and took in the scenery, in one last time, we saw through the increasingly fogged windows of our car the Rangs. All five up against the side of a house as the North Korean army slammed them in line one by one. The ringing of shots, screams, and tears could be heard as we drove back to the airport, as the faint killing death shots of the Rangs were put to justice for speaking out against the state and their government. This final scene that witnessed and caused solidified that even though we were in North Korea, it felt just like home in Florida. Yes, we told on the Rangs to North Korean military, and we would do it again. Don't forget to use the promo code for 20% off.
Well, I just realized we're at an hour and 43 minutes. So to wrap up, a couple of you wanted us to talk about the overturning, well, partial overturning of the assault weapons ban in California. And a couple of you wanted us to kind of talk about the Fauci emails. So, yeah, so for those of you who don't follow or pay attention to gun rights stuff, gun policy did this, right? It was Firearms Coalition. Yeah. So gun policy, for those of you who don't, my Republican friends who still support the NRA, fuck the NRA for one. All they do is fearmonger for donations and more subscriptions. They haven't done fuck all in the past 10 years, so stop spending your money there. If you want to donate money to any sort of Second Amendment advocacy group,
Politics on the rocks.
Yeah, no, don't give us money. We'll do something dumb with it. But no, gun policy, and is it Firearms
Policy Coalition?
They're the same. They're the same, right? They're like umbrellas
I believe they're
each
the
other.
same. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just won a lawsuit, or I don't think it was a law. Yeah, it was a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court, and the Ninth Circuit Court, the Ninth Circuit Court, which is the
federal judge.
Yeah, the federal courts that handle California or Southern California, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think.
Or is it all of California?
Yeah, I think it's most of California. Yeah. It's like a section of the country.
Right.
It's like that's out west.
The Northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either Northwest or Southwest.
Yeah. Regardless, it was in California, which I'm sure most of our listeners know is a very, very anti-Second Amendment state. But the judge ruled that the assault weapon ban, which...
It's about 34 years old, I think.
Yep,
now.
34 years old. Its main purpose was to target the most popular firearm in the country, the AR-15, as many of you are familiar with. It was ruled that the assault weapon ban in California was unconstitutional. Woo! Huge win. Yeah, that's fucking awesome. After 34 years. So, and just remember, the NRA didn't do this. Gun policy did. The only caveat is that there's a 30-day stay on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a lot of speculation that it's gonna get appealed and it's probably gonna be overturned. And
well, the state's gonna try to fight it back, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're gonna put the state of California is gonna put everything they can into getting this back onto the books. And it's been pretty clear. Gavin Newsom came out just very aggressive against it as soon as it happened.
Right.
So yeah, it's not a done battle yet, and the vast majority of speculation seems to think that it's probably going to be overturned.
Right.
But it's a win for now.
Right. Nonetheless, I think it's super cool to see this sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Advocacy work.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, it's nice to see just a gun rights organization like Firearms Policy Coalition that actually takes your money and uses it to
in the court
fight in the courts.
Yeah,
which is
cool.
That's
important.
not as libertarians, we don't really give a shit about the courts that much.
True.
But
it's the way we have to deal with things.
Yeah,
right.
That's the reality we live in. You have to fight for these rights in the courts, and this organization actually takes your money and uses it to fight for your rights, unlike the NRA.
Well, and just to kind of jump back to what you were saying, we wouldn't be so against it if it wasn't so corrupt, right? I mean,
Yeah.
The NRA.
Yeah, well,
No,
what are you
just
talking
the
about?
courts in general.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're against the courts because there's so much corruption and so much money involved that they don't work the way that, they should.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I
And it
I
goes-
digress.
And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with just,
Having the government have monopoly on these things.
They get to decide what a whole swath of the country does.
Right.
Yeah.
They get to decide what you do.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't say we disagree with it only because of that, but that is, that is a contributing factor to why we disagree with it. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. Not really too much else to talk about in regards to that.
Yeah.
Unless
I
you
mean,
guys have
I
anything
guess
you wanna add.
hold off on taking those fin grips off.
Nah, fuck it. Take them off. Fuck the Fed. Do what you want. Live how you want. Just don't be an idiot about it. That's
Yeah,
my
I mean, we
advice.
don't live in California, so put those flash hiders on there. Put those 30-round magazines in there.
Yep.
Take that bullet button off. That's fucking stupid.
No, the only thing I would have like a quick 30-second thing to say is like if you're liberty minded or even like in general, just like right now in California, they're in knee deep in shit right now. And if like right now Gavin Newsom's main thing is to fight back against this gun control instead of trying to get his state
Yeah.
back to a working order,
Yeah.
Pretty telling.
that should be something that like people should be like
outraged.
advocating about and like bringing to the front and attention in
But-
California to be like, hey, maybe we should get restaurants open again and like bring back like
And
people.
clean up all these fucking homeless people
Yeah,
that are
and just,
destroying our cities.
But gun violence is a national emergency,
Yeah,
Bookie.
of course. But like, I think most
Fair
people
point, fair point.
would agree. Like, just in general, right now, is like, hey, put pressure on him. Like, he's just when it comes down to it, politicians, no matter what, are public servants. Yes, they have a lot of like things they can hide behind, but like Gavin Newsom squirmed when people started signing the order to.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like,
That was
again,
amazing.
like right now, if he's going to put more attention to getting that,
You're
overturned-
talking about the recall vote?
yeah, the recall for
Yeah.
Newsom.
Yeah.
Like, if he's going to work more towards that than trying to get his city back up and running to where people can have good lives that are good. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
fuck 'em.
we've seen the videos of what California cities look like.
Disgusting.
Yeah, it's not great.
Venice Beach looks like a homeless camp.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is
I
almost-
guess. Yeah, I guess it is for.
I've been there.
all intents
A
and purposes.
bunch of my buddies live there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for your buddies. That's
Yeah.
fucking tough. Oh, your homeless buddies. I got you. yeah.
Dude, I was there.
Oh, wait, I forgot we got to talk to
I
her
was
a little
there
bit.
one time, man.
Chill
I
with
was-
that for
We'll
tonight.
cut
at
that
least.
part
yeah,
out.
Yeah.
I was there one time, and I was on like one of those like scooters, those electric scooters,
Mm-hmm.
and it died. And I was like, and I didn't have my phone on me, so it's kind of like relying on other people to like open them up with their phone. And there was like none around. There was one scooter around, and it was under a guy who was, dude, this is the strangest moment in my life.
Oh my gosh.
It was under a guy who was sitting on like bleachers, like on Venice Beach, right? And he had like a pair of shorts on that were real short, women's underwear, a tank top, and a luchador mask.
Are you sure that wasn't me? I have a tendency to get a little messed up on the bourbon and end up in some
A
strange
luchador mask and
situations.
women's underwear.
Yeah, dude, things happen. Man.
And so he was on a bleacher, and he was like convulsing because he was obviously on some sort of drug.
Yeah.
And the scooter was right underneath him, and I'm like, I gotta get that scooter.
You got it?
Well, I was in a situation where I'm like,
You had it. You
I had to
get
risk
it.
my life or become a homeless person in Venice.
You
So,
had to fight the boss.
dude.
yeah.
Boss with the women's underwear and the luchador mask.
That's it, dude. The boss. I ran up.
He's the final
I
homeless
grabbed
man
it.
boss.
And I just ran, man.
Dude, I give you
I didn't want to get.
props,
I didn't
bro.
want to get eaten.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I didn't want to get attacked. I don't know what that guy was going on.
There's some wild shit going on in
Yeah,
California.
it's
Yeah.
wild, man.
Well, so congratulations, California, for your small win.
Yeah.
Hopefully it stays big and continues.
Yeah, man, I really hope so because you guys have been living in
Yeah.
some like
RIP California.
communated. Yeah. Anyway,
But
so
we probably say-
Fauci emails. Yeah. Yeah. What?
I was gonna say we could probably save that for a later episode at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at that time, aren't we?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Whoever wanted to hear the Fauci emails, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Maybe
Go look them up. They're all like a paragraph long.
maybe next week.
Pretty much just says a bunch of stuff we already knew, but the media conveniently ignored this whole time. So
But that's the idea of this thing, right? Is that like there's a lot of us that can't like we have jobs and we're busy. So the idea of the podcast is that we can kind of give you the rundown of what's happening in the city and locally. You can listen to it. You can enjoy it. It's easy listening and fun. So we hope you guys enjoy it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
we do the research so you don't have to.
And by research, we mean barely look at it. And if you listen to this with one hand, we completely understand.
One hand.
I don't know what he's talking about.
And we'll and
That
on
was
that
your
note,
imagination on
nope. On that note, thanks for joining us.